What it do, YouTube? It's your boy Young Santa Ho. We're gonna do something that we did a long time ago. I mean, not a long time ago, but a little bit a while ago. About to do a 20-minute reading session. Haven't done these in a minute on the tube, so I wanna bring these shits back. Let me turn the light on so y'all can see me more. But I feel like you gotta read, bro, and I don't be reading much like I should be. So I feel like I gotta read again. But by the way, there's no daily video today. I didn't record that much today. But there will be one tomorrow. And there'll be a reading video tomorrow too. But I'm about to read right now. And 20 minutes starts. Nah. Alright, but so today we're reading The Mastery by Robert Greene. So we're picking on where we left off. Step 1. The creative task. You must begin by altering your very concept of creativity by trying to see it as a new angle. Most often, people associate creativity with something intellectual, a particular way of thinking. The truth is that creativity activity is one that involves the entire self, our emotions, our levels of energy, our characters, and our minds. To make a discovery, to invent something that connects with the public, to fashion a work of art that is meaningful, inevitably requires time and effort. This often entails a years of experimentation, various setbacks and failures, and the need of to maintain and the need to maintain a high level of focus. You must have the patience and faith that what you are doing will yield something important. You could have the most brilliant mind teeming with the knowledge of and ideas, but if you choose the wrong subject or problem to attack, you can run out of energy and interest. In such a case, of all of your intellectual brilliances will be led to nothing. The task that you choose to work on must have a obsessive element, like the life's task. It must connect to something deep within you. You must you must be like the captain Bob in Melville's Moby Dick assesses the hunting down the great white whale. With such a deep-rooted interest, you can withstand the setbacks and failures, the days of Drewbury, and the hard work that are always part of any problem, any creative action. You can ignore the arts and critics, and will then feel personally committed to solving the problem. It will not rest until you do so. Understand is a choice of where to direct his or her energy, cre- creative energy that makes the master. When Thomas Edison saw his first demonstration of the electric light, arc light, he knew that then there he had to find his ultimate challenge and the perfect goal toward which to direct his creative energies. Figuring out how to make electric light not just a gimmick, but something that would eventually replace the gas light would require years of intense labor, but would change the world like nothing else. It was like a perfect riddle for him to solve. He had met his perfect creative match. For the artist Rembrandt, it was not it was not until he found a particular subject matter that appealed to him. Dramatic scenes from the Bible and elsewhere that conveyed the darker and more tragic aspects of life. That he rose to the occasion and invented a whole new way of painting and capturing light. The writer Marcel Proust suffered for years as he struggled to find subject matter upon which to base a novel. Finally, when he realized that his own life and his own failed attempts to write a great novel was actually the subject he was looking for, it was all poured out to him into one of the greatest novels ever and written in Search of Lost Time. This is the primary law of creative dynamic. You must engrave deeply in your mind and never forget. Your emotional commitment to what you're doing will be translated directly into your work. If you go at your work of half heart, it will show in the lackluster results in the long hard way in which you will reach the end. If you are doing something primarily for money and without a real emotion commitment, it will translate into something that lacks soul and that has no connection to you. You may not see this, but you can assure that the public will feel it and that they will receive your work in the same lesser spirit it was created in. If you are excited and obsessive in the hunt, it will show in the details. If your work continues from the place of deep within, its authenticity and will be communicated. This applies equally to science and business as to the art. Your creative task may not rise to the same obsessive level as it did for Edison, but it must have a degree of obsessiveness or your efforts will be doomed. You must never simply embark on any creative endeavor in your field. Placing faith in your own brilliance is to see it through. You must make the perfect choice for your energies and your inclinations. To aid in this process, it is often wise to choose something that appeals to your sense of unconventionality and calls up latent feelings of rebelliousness. Perhaps what you want to invent or discover is being ignored or ridiculed by others. The work you have envisioned will stir up controversy and ruffle some feathers. In opting for something that has a deep personal appeal to you, you will naturally move in an unorthodox direction. Try to ally this with a desire to subvert conventional paradigms and go against the grain. The sense of having an enemy or daggers can serve as a powerful motivating device and will fill you with an added cre- creativity, energy, and focus. There are two things to keep in mind. First, the task you choose must be realistic. The knowledge and skills you have gained must immediately be immediately suited to pulling it off. To reach your goal, you must have to learn a few new things. You must have mastered the basics and possess a solid enough grasp of the field that you can mind and focus on the higher matters. On the other hand, it is always best to choose a task that is slightly above you, one that may be considered ambitious on your part. This is corollary of the law of creative dynamic. The higher the goal, the more energy you will call up within it. You will rise to the challenge because you have to, and will discover creative powers in yourself that you never expected. Second, you must let go of your need for comfort and security. Creative endeavors are by their nature uncertain. You may know your task, but you never exactly know where your efforts will lead. If you need everything in your life to be simple and say this open-ended nature of tasks will fill you with anxiety. If you are worried about what others thinking about your position in the group of thought might be jeopardized, then you will never create anything. You will unconsciously tether your mind to certain conventions, and your ideas will grow still and flat. If you are worried about failure or going through a period of mental and financial instability, then you will violate the primary law of creative dynamic, and your worries will be reflected in the results. Think of yourself as an explorer. You cannot find new if you are willing to lead the shore. That's facts. But we got 13 minutes left there. Step 2, creative strategies. Think of the mind as a muscle that naturally tightens up over time and is unconsciously worked upon. What causes this tightening is twofold. First, we generally prefer to entertain the same thoughts of ways of thinking because they provide us with a sense of consistency and familiarity. Sticking with the same methods also saves a lot of effort. We are creatures of habit. Second, whenever we work hard at a problem or idea, our minds naturally narrow their focus because of the strain and effort involved. This means that the further we progress on our creativity task, the fewer alternate possibilities or viewpoints we tend to consider. This is the tightening process, or this tightening process afflicts all of us. It is the best to admit that you share in this flaw. The only antidote is to enact strategies to loosen up the mind and let in alternative ways of thinking. This is not only essential for a creative process, but is also immensely therapeutic for our psyches. The following 5 strategies for developing such flexibility have been distilled from the lessons and stories of the most creative masters, past and present. It would be wise to adapt all of them at some point, stretching and loosening the mind in all directions. Okay, bet. A. Cultivate negative capability. In 1817, 22-year-old poet John Keats wrote a letter to his brother in which he explained to his recent thoughts on the creative process. The world around us, he wrote, is far more complex than we can possibly imagine. With our limited senses in consciousness, we only glimpse a small portion of reality. Furthermore, everything in the universe is in a state of constant flux. Simple words and thoughts cannot capture this flux of our complexity. The only solution for our entitled person is to let the mind absorb itself in what it experiences, without having to form a judgment on it what it all means. The mind must be able to feel the doubt and uncertainty for as long as possible. And as it remains in this state and probes deeply into the mysteries of the universe, ideas will come that are more dimensional, real than if we had jumped to conclusions and formed judgments early on. Trying to like understand this shit. To accomplish this, he wrote, "We must be capable of negating our egos. We are by nature fearful and insecure creatures. We do not like what is unfamiliar and unknown. To compensate for this, we assert ourselves with opinions and ideas that make us seem strong and certain. Many of these opinions do not come from our own deep reflection, but are instead based on what others think. Furthermore, once we hold these ideas to admit they are wrong is to wound our ego and vanity. Truly creative people in all fields can temporarily suspend their ego and simply experience what they are seeing without the need of assert dominance for as long as possible. They are more ready to find most cherished opinions and contradicted by reality. This ability to endure and even embrace mysteries and concerns what Keys called negative capability. All masters possess this negative capability. It is the source that of their power. This quality allows them to entertain a broader range of ideas, experiment with them, which in turn makes their work richer and more inventive. Throughout his career, Mozart never asserted any particular opinions about music. Instead, he absorbed those styles he read about himself and incorporated them into his own music. Late in his career, he encountered for the first time the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, in a kind of music very different from his own, in some ways more complex. Most artists would grow defensive and dismissive of something that challenged all their principles. But instead, Mozart opened his mind to new possibilities, studying Bach's use of counterpoint for nearly a year and absorbing it into his own vocabulary. This gave his music a new, surprising quality. At a young age, Albert Einstein found himself fascinated by the apparent paradox of two people observing the same beam of light, one pursuing it at the speed of light and the other at the rest. On Earth, how would it appear the same to the both of them? Instead of using available theories to gloss this over or explain it for 10 years, he contemplated this paradox. In a state of negative capability, operating in this way, he was able to consider almost every possible solution until he finally hit upon the one that led to his theory of relativity. This might seem like some of the kind of poetic conceit, but in fact, cultivating negative capability will be the most important factor in your success as a creative thinker. In this science, you will tend to entertain ideas that fit in your own preconceptions that you want to believe in. This unconsciously colors your choice of how to verify these ideas. It is known as confirmation bias. With this with this type of bias, you will find the experiments and data that confirm what you already want to believe in, what come to believe in. The uncertainty of not knowing the answers beforehand is too much for scientists. In the art of letters, your thoughts will go around political dogma or pre-digested ways of looking at the world, and what you will often end up expressing is an opinion rather than a truthful observation about reality. To Keats, William Shakespeare was ideal because he did not judge his characters, but instead opened himself up to their words and expressions of the reality even those who were considered evil. The need for certainty is the greatest disease of mine. To put negative capabilities into practice, you must develop the habit of suspending the need of judge to everything that crosses your path. You consider and even momentarily entertain the viewpoints of opposite to your own, seeing how they feel and observe a person or event for the length of time. Deliberately holding yourself back from forming an opinion, you seek out what is unfamiliar. For instance, reading books from unfamiliar writers in unrelated fields are different schools of thought. You do anything to break your normal train of thinking in your sense of what you already know truth. To negate the ego, you must adopt a kind of humility toward knowledge. The greatest scientist, Michael Faraday expressed his attitude in following away. Scientific knowledge is a constantly progressing. The greatest theories of the time are eventually disproven or altered at some future point. The human mind is simply too weak to have a clear or perfect vision of reality. The idea or theory that you are currently formulating that seems so fresh and alive and truthful will almost certainly be shot down or ridiculed in a few decades or centuries. And it is so best to keep this in mind and not grow too fond of your ideas and too certain of their truth. Negative capabilities should not be permanent state of mind. In order to produce work art of any sort, we must create limits of what we will consider. We must organize our thoughts into relatively cohesive patterns and eventually come up with conclusions. In the end, we must make certain judgments. Make certain judgments. Negative capability is a tool we use in the processes to open the mind up temporarily to more possibilities. Once this way of thinking leads to creative avenue of thought, we can give our ideas to a clear shape and gently let it go, returning to this attitude whenever we feel like a stale or blocked. All right, bet B. Allow for serendipity. The brain is an instrument developed for making connections. It operates as a dual processing system, in which every bit of information that comes in is at the same time compared to other information. The brain is constantly searching for similarities, differences, relations between what it processes. Your task is to feed the natural inclination to create the optimal conditions for it to make new and original associations between ideas and experiences. And one of the best ways to accomplish this is by letting go of the conscious control and allowing a chance to enter into the process. The reason for it is simple. When we are consumed with a particular project, our attention tends to become quite narrow as focused so deeply. We grow tense in this state, and our minds respond by trying to reduce the amount of stimuli we have to deal with. We literally close ourselves from the world in order to concentrate on what is necessary. This can have an unintended consequence of making it harder for us to see other possibilities, to be more open and creative for our ideas. When we are more relaxed state, our attention naturally broaden and we can take in more stimuli. Many of the most interesting and profound discoveries in science occur when a thinker is not concentrating directly on the problem but is a drift off asleep, or again, the buzzword here's a joke. Moments of unstrained attention. When something unexpected enters the mental sphere or triggers a new fertile connection, such chance associations discoveries are known as serendipity. The occurrence of something that we are not expecting, and although by their nature cannot force them to happen, you can invite serendipity into the creative process by taking two simple steps. The first step is to widen your search as far as possible. In research, in research stage in the research stage of your project, you look at more than was generally required. You expand your search into other fields, reading and absorbing any related information. If you have a particular theory or hypnosis about a phenomenon, you examine as many examples and potential counterexamples as possible. It might seem tiring and inefficient, but you must trust this process. What ensues is what the brain becomes increasingly excited and stimulated by the variety of information. As William James expressed it, the mind transitions from one idea to another. The most unheard of combination of elements to sub-least associations of analogy in a word we seem suddenly introduced with a seething calderon of ideas. Where everything is fizzling and bubbling about in a state of building activity, a kind of mental momentum is generated in which the slightest chance of occurrence will spark a fertile idea. The second step is to maintain an openness and a looseness of spirit in moment of great tension and in great tension and searching. You allow yourself moments to release. You take walks, engage in activities outside your work, or think about something else, no matter how trivial. When some new anticipated idea now enters your mind, you do not ignore it because it is irrational or does not fit the narrow framework of previous work. You give it instead of full attention and explore where it leads you to. Perhaps the greatest illustration of this world would be the discovery of Louis Pasteur of immunology and how contagious diseases can be prevented by inclination. Pasteur spent years demonstrating that various diseases are shit. Shit. All right, bet. So we're gonna end it right there, perhaps. But I just want to say I love y'all boys. I'm gonna have a video tomorrow for the whole day, and we're gonna have a reading video tomorrow. Hope y'all enjoy this shit. 21 minutes. We out this shit. 21 minutes. But I'm gonna see y'all tomorrow. Good videos. Good videos. Let me know how my reading is getting. I'll see y'all boys. Love y'all. Stay trill. Stay blessed. Win a day. Win a week.